Good morning, children. Today we are going to see Civics Unit 4, India's Foreign Policy. In this lesson, we are going to see the basic principles of India's foreign policy, meaning and the significance of non-alignment, the Constitution of India 1950 and its Article 51, Panchasheel, the stages of our foreign policy, SARC, the importance of foreign policy, the difference between domestic policy and foreign policy. What is foreign policy? Foreign policy can be defined as a country's policy that is conceived, designed and formulated to safeguard and promote her national interest with her external affairs in the conduct of relationships with other countries, both bilaterally and multilaterally. Foreign policy seeks to secure the best interest of the people, territory and economy of the country. It is the direct reflection of country's traditional values and overall national policies, her aspirations and self-perceptions. Indian Foreign Service. The Minister of External Affairs of India, also known as Foreign Ministry, comes under Government of India, which is responsible for the conduct of foreign relations of India. Children, these officers, they have to be trained. So, there is a special training institute which is called as the Foreign Service Training Institute in New Delhi, which was established in 1986, which provides the training for officers of Indian Foreign Service. These persons were also called as ambassadors. The Constitution of India 1950, under which Article 51 lays down the direct principles for India's foreign policy. The state shall endeavour, which means try hard, to promote international peace and security, to maintain just and honourable relations between nations, to foster, which means to encourage, okay children, respect for international law and international organization, to encourage settlement of international disputes by arbitration. The main objectives of our foreign policy: national security, national prosperity, increasing the number of the friendly nations, achieving world peace and enable every nation to peacefully coexist, economic development. See children, India followed the 5 principles of a peaceful coexistence, which is called as a Panchasheel. This Panchasheel was signed between Indian Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru and Chinese Premier Chu Enlai, and they signed the agreement on 28 April 1954. These principles were incorporated in the Bandung Declaration, which was signed in the Afro-Asian Conference held in 1955 in Indonesia. We should know the basic determinants of a foreign policy. See, if we take this basic determinants, where differ from nation to nation. Okay. So, geographical position and size of the territory, nation's history, traditions and philosophical basis, thirdly, natural resources of the country, the compulsion of economic development, political stability and structure of the government, the necessity of peace, disarmament, which means reduction of the military forces, okay. And next, non-proliferation, which means prevention of increase of nuclear weapons. Next, military strength, and last, international milieu. Next, children, we have to know foreign policy in 1950s and 1960s. During this period, what is the strategy of India we have to know. The period from independence through 1950s and 1960s constitute the most idealistic phase of India's foreign policy under the guidance of India's first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru. The new nations that got independence after a long period of colonial struggle found themselves in a very difficult situation with respect to economic development. It was necessary to align with either of the blocks. That is, there were two blocks. One is United States of America, which is a democratic bloc, Union Soviet Socialist Republic, which is also called as USSR. This is a communist bloc. Okay. At the time, Nehru, India's first Prime Minister, was opposed to the rivalry of the two superpowers, America and Russia, who were trying to extend their influence over the newly emerged nations of Asia and Africa. He chose the path of non-alignment, that is, not aligning with any bloc in the face of the bipolar order of the Cold War and try to form a third bloc of nations in international affairs. And Jawaharlal Nehru had given in his famous quotes about the non-alignment. That is, broadly, non-alignment means tying yourself off with military blocs. It means trying to view things as far as possible, not from the military point of view, though that has to come in sometimes, but independently, and trying to maintain friendly relations with all countries. This is a famous quotes given by our first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru. The non-aligned movement NAM, which is also called as in 1961. The term non-alignment was coined by V. Krishna Menon in his speech at the United Nations in 1953. Non-alignment has been regarded as a most important feature of India's foreign policy. It aimed to maintain national independence in foreign affairs by not joining with any military alliance. Founding fathers of NAM or else non-aligned movement. See, if we take the founding fathers, Jawaharlal Nehru of India, Tito of Yugoslavia, Nasser of Egypt, Sukarno of Indonesia, and Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana were the founding fathers of NAM. Basic concepts of India's foreign policy. See, if we take the basic thing, first comes the preservation of national interest. Preservation means, that is, protection of physical, political, cultural against encroachment of other nations. Okay, children? Next is achievement of world peace. Third, disarmament, which means reduction in the military force. Fostering, we had already saw meaning for fostering, which means encouragement of cordial relations with other countries. Next is solving conflicts by peaceful means. Independence of thought and action as per the principle of NAM, that is, non-aligned movement. Equality in conducting in the international relations. Last but not the least, anti-colonialism, anti-imperialism and anti-racism. Children, we had already saw disarmament means reduction of military force. Okay, these are the new words you are learning. So, frequently we have to bring in our memory. Okay. Since independence, global non-proliferation has been a dominant theme of India's nuclear policy. India supported UN disarmament program. This is very important regarding the international affairs. Okay. Indian nuclear program in 1974 and 1998 is only done for strategic purpose. The two themes of India's nuclear doctrine are no first use, that is, we are not the first person to use this nuclear weapons. Next is credible minimum deterrence, that is, less use of this only for the good purpose. It has decided not to use nuclear power for offensive purposes and would never use against any nuclear state. This is a very important part regarding our national foreign policy. Indo-US civilian nuclear deal marks a significant progress in India's foreign policy. Here, children, you have to know the difference between foreign policy and diplomacy. Even though both look like alike, we have to know the difference. See, children, the foreign policy is a combination of strategies carefully formulated by a nation for maintaining relationship with other nations, whereas diplomacy is an instrument for implementing foreign policy of a state. SAARC. SAARC abbreviation is, SAARC is an expansion of South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation. SAARC is an economic and geopolitical organization of 8 countries that are primarily located in South Asia. The SAARC policies aim to promote welfare economics, collective self-reliance among the countries of South Asia and to accelerate socio-cultural development in the region. There are 8 member countries in the SAARC association. Okay. The 8 member countries are Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal, Maldives, Pakistan and Sri Lanka. Differences between domestic policy and foreign policy. Children, we had already saw differences between foreign policy and diplomacy. Now, we are going to see the difference between foreign policy and domestic policy. Okay. Domestic policy. Domestic policy is a nation's plan for dealing issues within its own nation. Okay. Whereas the foreign policy is a nation's plan for dealing with other nations. Okay. Next, if we take domestic policy, it includes laws focusing on domestic affairs, social welfare, health care, education, civil rights, economic issues and social issues. Whereas in foreign policy, we are dealing with trade, diplomacy, sanctions, defense, intelligence and global environments are the types of the foreign policy. If we take the conclusion, children, we have to conclude that is, today India has formal diplomatic relation with most of the nations, besides being the world's second most populous country, largest democracy and one of the fastest growing country. Though India is not in any major military alliance, our relations with the major powers have acquired a strategic depth. Our common fight was against terrorism is a particular element of our strength. India has sought to achieve its security and socio-economic advancement while at the same time working for peace, freedom, progress and justice to all nations and peoples. India adheres to the foreign policy principles that in international relations there is no permanent friend and no permanent foe. Foe means enemy. Okay. Only the interests are permanent. New challenges forced India to adjust to new realities. Even then, basic framework of its foreign policy remained more or less the same. Okay, children. Now, we have to just recap, or else we have to see what are the important points regarding this lesson. Okay. The foreign policy of the government concerns the policy initiatives made towards other states. The Ministry of External Affairs is responsible for carrying out the foreign policy of India. A goal-oriented foreign policy has the potential to achieve improved relations with other nations. After independence, we joined the Commonwealth nations and strongly supported independence movement in other countries, that is in the developing or else newly emerged nations like the African nations. Foreign policy is currently focused on improving relations with neighboring countries and major global powers. The non-aligned movement NAM was formed with a membership of 120 countries and 17 states as observers and 10 international organizations. It has formed from a political movement to an economical movement. Cold War era. Children, you have to know what is a Cold War. It is nothing, it is a political tension between the nations without any military forces. The non-alignment routes did not prevent India from entering into an alignment with the Soviet Union by the Indo-Soviet Treaty of 1971. Then India embarked on a substantial program of a military modernization. In 1974, India also conducted its first nuclear test at Pokhran under Subsaharan nuclear explosion project in response to China's nuclear test in 1964 at Lopnar. India got her political freedom in the aftermath of a disaster, Second World War, and India had to be redeemed acute proper poverty, illiteracy and chaotic socio-economic condition. Our nation could not afford to military entanglements and military alliances. Avoidance of military blocs was then not an option but a necessity for us. Non-alliance did not mean neutrality, but the freedom of nations to decide on issues independently. Non-alliance did not mean demilitarization of nations. It was meant to ensure de-escalation of conflicts and tensions. Even without discarding the non-alliance, India could enormously strengthen her defense system and could become a nuclear power. False in detail of foreign policy execution have been addressed time and again, but India's basic policy of non-alliance is still in force. New developments which took place in the 1990s and the 20th century. During the 1990s, along with the fall of the Soviet Union, a new global economic order was emerged with the support of the Western powers. India entered into pacts with the Global Economic Forum, GATT, and entered into a bilateral, trilateral, multilateral agreements. Its nuclear experiments resulted in the intimidatory reactions from the Western world. New developments, listen children, this shifts in India's policy manifested in various ways such as better relations with China, that is the Look East policy in 1992, the second nuclear test at Pokhran 1998 in Rajasthan, defense procurement relationship with Israel, energy diplomacy with Arab countries and Iran, agreeing to US nuclear missile defense program, and India's vote against Iran at the International Atomic Energy Agencies. The foremost task of India's foreign policy is to enable the domestic transformation of India. India's global security concerns are reflected in its military modernization, maritime security, and nuclear policies. India has adjusted to meet the needs of intensified economic engagement with the world, which is designed to meet the needs of an increased inflow of capital, technology, ideas, and innovations for our development and our re-emergency as one of the world's leading economies. India has emerged as a major voice in global decision making and management, and as of bridge and balancing power in the emerging global strategic architecture. The response of our policymakers at economic, political, and strategic levels have been enabled India to emerge as a potential great power, though it faces enormous developmental changes. These challenges include sustaining the country's economic growth rate, ensuring energy and security. Contemporary context: change in the continuity in India's foreign policy. Children, after 1990s or else towards the starting of the 21st century, there is a change in India's foreign policy. Regarding neighborhood first policy, India provides neighbors with support as needed in the form of resources, equipment, and training. Greater connectivity and integration is provided so as to improve the free flow of goods, people, energy, capital, and information. Bridging diplomacy and develop. One of the major objectives of India's foreign policy has been to leverage international partnership for India's domestic development. This includes improving technological access, sourcing capital, gaining market access, and securing natural resources. A gradual transition from look east to act east policy. This policy emphasizes a more productive role for Asian and East Asian countries. The three big elements in our Eastern policy are stronger, emphasis on physical connectivity, commercial and security related. Thank you, children.